Chapter 114. Do you know what I carry? Geto's elbow glanced off Gojo's ribs instead of sinking in like he'd intended. Shit, he muttered, watching Gojo pivot away from him. Gojo laughed, breath uneven. They'd been trading blows for the last 15 minutes, attracting their classmates to the edges of the mats to observe their hand-to-hand training. Yaga watched, expressionless, arms crossed in front of his chest. They were both warmed up now. Patches of sweat appeared on the chests and backs of their dark blue gym t-shirts. Geto adjusted his stance and stepped in fast, keeping his shoulder low, catching his fingers on Gojo's sleeve, yanking him forward. Gojo's balance wavered just enough and Geto seized the moment. He swept Gojo's leg and drove them both down, assisted by gravity, momentum clean and sharp. Their bodies hit the mat with a dull thud. Got you, Geto said, shifting to pin him. You almost did. Gojo winked at Geto and twisted, rolling them sideways. He slipped free before Geto could lock his grip. They scrambled back to their feet, hands up, breathless, eyes bright. Geto's irritation flared. He lunged, chaining strikes together fast enough that it forced Gojo to block instead of dodge. Gojo gave ground, feet skidding, the grin on his face thinning just a little. The students watching murmured. Gojo and Geto's sparring matches were the gold standard in hand-to-hand combat training. Geto kept pressing at Gojo, heart racing, feeling that a win was in his sight. He reached for Gojo's collar, but Gojo caught his wrist. In one smooth motion, Gojo twisted his arm and used Geto's own momentum to bring him down. Geto's back hit the mat and Gojo pinned a knee to Geto's shoulder. They stared at each other a little too long, both panting. Their audience dispersed to focus on their own matches. Too eager, Gojo moved back and held his hand out to Geto to help him up. You rush when you think you've got me. Geto stood up with a huff. Not that that's a bad thing, Gojo said flirtatiously in Geto's ear. Geto elbowed him, a pink flush coloring his face. While they stretched and cooled down, Yaga approached them. After showers and lunch, Geto can do independent study at the library. Gojo, we have an open assignment for a general patrol in... Yaga glanced down at the clipboard in his hand. I don't go on assignments without my partner, Gojo warned. Gojo had promised Geto he would no longer go on missions without him. Geto was convinced their downfall started with small changes, like being separated for assignments. Gojo was ready to refuse any mission, no matter how minor they appeared, if Geto was not coming with him. Yaga sighed. You know we can't send Geto into the field right now. Then don't send me. That's the deal, Gojo told him, fists beginning to tighten. Don't worry, it won't be long before the higher-ups can weaponize us again. Yaga opened his mouth to speak. I found someone to talk to, Geto broke in. Geto's interjection eased the tension. Gojo's fists relaxed, and Yaga's grip on his clipboard loosened. Can I use independent study to meet with them? Geto asked. Off campus? Yaga asked. Yes, sensei. Geto, you are aware that the Jujutsu world and civilian world... Sensei, if I sense at any time that they can't meet my needs with discretion, I'll find somebody else. Geto took a leap of faith. He hoped he wasn't wrong. Who is this person? Yaga asked. He's one of the ministers at Shinraiji, Saito-sensei. Yaga paused. Geto worried that Yaga would forbid him from going, and he waited in strained silence for Yaga's approval. Yaga was familiar with the temples in the vicinity. He attended services with a different sect, but he knew of Shinraiji, a Jodo Shinchu temple that held progressive values, including a radical acceptance of those who people deem unfit. They taught that even those who believe themselves morally compromised are still embraced by Amida Buddha's boundless compassion. In the Jodo Shinchu sect, women were allowed to serve as ministers along their male counterparts, and they were known for being open to people of all walks of life, including the still marginalized LGBTQ community. Maybe this is the right call, Yaga thought. It might be a risky move to have Geto confide in someone on the outside, but authorities within Jujutsu society would only frame Geto as dangerous, unstable, something to be monitored or corrected. Any Jujutsu counselor would stay loyal to the system, and anything they saw as a threat would be reported immediately. A Jodo Shinshu minister's focus wouldn't be to protect an institution, assess threat levels, or see Geto as something that needed to be fixed or controlled. A system that doesn't benefit from Geto's strength is less likely to exploit his pain, Yaga thought. I see how the Jujutsu world only knows how to make your burdens heavier. If there's a place that teaches you how to set them down, I don't want to be the one to forbid you to go. Geto exhaled the breath he was holding. Thank you, Sensei. Come back to my office at 1500. I'll train with Gojo for a bit, and since he's not available for assignment, there are some tasks he can help me with in the classroom. Gojo's head whipped towards Yaga. What? He exclaimed. Geto shot Gojo a look. Yes, Sensei, Gojo grumbled. Gojo and Geto showered and changed. They walked to the ramen shop for lunch so they'd be closer to the temple. They ate their noodles quickly and sipped on the remaining broth. Gojo sat back to watch Geto. Geto put his bowl down and looked up. I'm glad you found someone to turn to, Gojo told him. Someone you can trust. I can't say that I fully trust Saito-sensei yet, Satoru, but I trust you. The corners of Geto's mouth lifted in a small smile. No, you don't. You shouldn't. I love you too much. I just want to devour you, Gojo told him, knowing he'd make Geto blush. Shut up, Geto countered softly. Gojo walked Geto to the temple. At the edge of the grounds, Geto turned to Gojo. I'm glad you turned down that assignment, he said. Gojo reached for Geto's wrist gently. I made a promise not to go on missions without you. Geto nodded. That means something. Suguru, it means I don't want to lose you again. I'm trying to change the things that tore us apart the first time. And I'm only here so you can see that I'm trying to be better, so the higher-ups won't say I'm beyond saving. I want to find worth in surviving. I want to earn your respect and keep your love. I want to be worthy enough to, Geto almost said, to marry you, but he stopped himself. Gojo's fingers gripped Geto's wrist tighter. Suguru, I wish you could see yourself the way that I do. I understand if you don't right now, but it still hurts me. I hope Saito-sensei can help you sort some things out. Gojo pulled Geto closer and kissed him on the cheek. Geto watched him retreat down the path back to campus. Gojo turned around and flashed a smile. Don't forget to pick me up, Gojo called out. Geto laughed. I'll be there. Saito-sensei met Geto at the temple entrance. Geto-san, welcome. I just made some tea. Care to join me? Geto followed him to his office. A small teapot sat on a hot pad next to two small cups. Geto shut the office door and sat down while Saito-sensei poured the tea. Did you know I was going to be here? Geto asked. I had a feeling you'd be back, and it's just about the same time now than when you came by yesterday. Saito-sensei settled in his chair and set his steaming teacup in front of him. You already know something about me, Geto stated. I know you're carrying something heavy, Saito-sensei replied. I asked if you would report me if I said the wrong thing, Geto reminded him. Yes, you did. And you said you had no authority over me. I did say that. It's still true, Saito-sensei confirmed. That's not the answer of someone who knows nothing. Knowing of you is not the same thing as claiming you. At my school, those are usually the same thing, Geto said. I suspected as much. Saito-sensei took a sip of his tea. Then why didn't you ask who I am, or what I do? Geto asked, a slight edge to his voice. Because if I ask, you'll answer the way you were trained to. I'm not interested in meeting your training. Geto looked down. What if what I do is unforgivable? Then we'll sit with that for a while. Most people use that word too quickly. Saito-sensei pushed his glasses up and leaned back. What if what I do makes me hate myself and the world around me? Geto's throat was tight, as if ready to choke back tears. Then that too is something to notice, not something to punish. You're not afraid of me, Geto stated. I'm careful with you. That's not the same thing. If I start talking, I don't know where it ends, Geto met Saito-sensei's gaze. Then let it end here for today. Geto looked down at his untouched tea. He glanced back up at Saito-sensei. His expression was open, patient. Geto nodded and stood up. Saito-sensei walked Geto to the temple entrance and they bowed to each other. Will you return tomorrow? Saito-sensei asked. It's always a possibility, Geto answered, testing him. Either way, there'll be tea. Saito-sensei gave Geto a small nod and headed deeper into the temple. Geto walked back to the school, mulling over his decision to reach out to someone outside of the Jujutsu system. He knew he couldn't turn to anyone there, but he was still having trouble opening up to someone on the outside too. His trust had been completely broken by people who were in positions to help him, and he didn't know if he could ever truly trust in people again. When he reached Yaga's office, his mood lifted a little. He wanted to be near Gojo. The door was open, but Geto still knocked and hesitantly peeked his head in. Yaga was at his desk, leafing through some papers. Gojo was on the other side of the room, high atop a ladder, shelving some books. His white button-up shirt was disheveled and coming untucked in the back. They both turned to Geto. Yaga didn't greet him. The smile that lit up Gojo's face when he saw him made Geto's chest clench. Gojo slammed the last 2 books onto the top shelf and scrambled down the ladder. Suguru, at last you've come to save me, Gojo exclaimed. He wiped at the sheen of sweat on his forehead with his shirt sleeve. He started gathering his things. How did your counseling session go? Yaga asked Geto. It was fine. When is your next appointment? Geto thought about it. He'd never formally made appointments with Saito-sensei. He just happened to be readily available when Geto dropped by. He's expecting me tomorrow, Geto answered. Yaga nodded. Good. Sensei, can we go now? Gojo asked. Yaga turned back to his desk and waved his hand at the 2 of them. You're dismissed. Gojo had both their backpacks and handed Geto his. They weaved around their classmates in the hallway and went back to the gym to shoot hoops, then decided to go out for ramen. After dinner, Gojo filled Geto in on his training and all the random chores Yaga made him do in lieu of being sent out on assignment. Gojo's retelling of his afternoon was so animated and lively that Geto was smiling by the time they reached the dorm. Gojo wanted to enjoy Geto's smile while it lasted, and he sat down at his desk. He picked up his giant Choco Cat plushie off the floor and rested his chin on it. He watched Geto change into his casual clothes. Geto stood bare-chested, hesitating before untying the straps of his Hakama pants. Why are you staring at me? He asked. It was your smile, Gojo answered. I can't undress while you're staring at me. Then I'll do it for you. Gojo set Choco Cat back on the ground and approached Geto. Geto took a few steps back, clutching the waistband of his pants. I don't feel like messing around right now, he said, cheeks reddening. Gojo sat at the edge of his bed. Suguru, I don't want sex from you all the time, he said. Most of the time, yes, but sometimes I just want to be near you. Will you come here? Gojo coaxed. Geto shuffled over and stood in front of Gojo. Gojo reached around Geto's waist to undo the knot in the back. He slowly unwound the ties and held the pants at ankle level so Geto could step out of them. Geto stood in only his dark gray boxer briefs. Get your clothes. Geto handed Gojo his lounge pants and t-shirt. He bent down so Gojo could pull the shirt over his head. He stuck his arms through the sleeves and stepped into the pants. Gojo pulled them up and tied the strings at his waist. Now you, Geto said. Gojo stood and let Geto undress him. He did so, slowly, intentionally. By the time Gojo was down to his boxers, he was aroused. He put his t-shirt on. Then Geto noticed Gojo's hard-on. Satoru, I said I don't want to, he started to say. Suguru, relax. I'm not going to do anything. It's a biological reaction. Geto grinned and relaxed his shoulders. I just want to talk, to check in with you, Gojo told him. Gojo sat back on the bed so Geto could straddle him, their favorite way to have intimate conversations. Gojo reached up and gently undid the hair elastic, keeping Geto's hair in a bun. His hair tumbled onto his shoulders in waves. Gojo combed his fingers through. Geto closed his eyes and wrapped his arms around Gojo's neck. If Gojo played with his hair long enough, it would lull him to sleep. He opened his eyes again when Gojo stopped. I know you told Yaga that your counseling session went fine, but did it really? Gojo asked. Yeah, I'm kind of feeling it out though. It's hard to open up after I shut everything away for so long, Geto admitted. Maybe tomorrow I'll actually say something that Saito-sensei can help me with. Don't rush yourself, Suguru. This isn't something that can be fixed overnight, Gojo said. So, you still see me as being broken? Geto asked quietly. I see you as someone that needs to let themselves heal, Gojo corrected him. Geto sat in Gojo's lap quietly, letting his arms fall from around Gojo's neck. Tell me again, Geto said after a long pause. Tell you... Gojo wasn't sure what he was asking. Tell me about our life. Oh, you mean how we're gonna go out more, eat more junk food, play more games? Gojo grinned. Yeah. And how I'm going to sneak you into a love hotel for the weekend? Gojo said mischievously. Even though we can have all the sex we want in this room? Geto asked. Yes, because I heard those hotels have vibrating beds and handcuffs and whips and different flavors of lube I can lick from your body, Gojo teased. Shut up, Geto laughed. Why so quiet? Gojo asked after a while, wondering why Geto's cheeks were such a dark shade of pink. You're still hard. It's distracting. Geto looked down at his lap. Suguru, you're hard too. Gojo pinched Geto's ass, causing him to squeal. What did it for you? Hearing about the handcuffs or the whips? It was thinking about you licking my body, Geto admitted shyly. I could do that now, but you said you didn't want to. I want to now, Geto said quickly. Are you sure? I don't want to force you. I want to, Geto interrupted again. Gojo flipped Geto onto his back and gave him a lingering kiss on the mouth. He trailed his lips softly down his chin, licking and kissing his throat, chest, and nipples. He pulled Geto's clothes off, making sure every part of him was licked and kissed to the point that Geto begged Gojo to finally make love to him. Geto was drenched, and Gojo slid into him easily. He pinned Geto's wrists to the bed while they fucked. He moaned when Gojo finished inside him, thrusting his hips into Geto until he'd given him everything he had. Gojo freed his wrists and they lay on their backs, trying to catch their breaths. Gojo reached out to hold Geto in his arms. Satoru? Yeah? I wanted to hear the next part too, Geto said. The part where I'd ask you to marry me? Yeah, that part. I'd ask you, just like that, will you marry me? That way I won't be confused by the answer. It would only be yes or no. Nothing in between, Gojo said. I'm pretty sure I'd say yes, Geto teased. See, that's what I mean. You can't answer pretty sure yes or pretty sure no. That's idiotic, Gojo tried to reason. Geto laughed. Gojo held him tighter. They were quiet for a while, both fighting sleep. I hope you do say yes, Gojo said. His white lashes finally fluttered closed. I will, Satoru, Geto whispered into the dark.